Thank you. Be seated. Great music, great entertainment. Music should entertain, right? We always remind you that it comes from the word muse, which means to think, and we are a thinking people. But we're also adding the element of feeling, emotion, the energy that is in motion in your soul, in your mind, in your life, in your thoughts. When you get thoughts and feelings working together, you become a much more meaningful existence on the planet. You need to feel it. That's the difference between love and compassion. Compassion, love is we love the word, and we do love beyond belief, but it's a little bit raggedy if you don't add compassion, because love can be sloppy. Nobody can hurt you or harm you or hinder you or hate you like somebody you love or who loves you. If you add the element of compassion, that means you feel the passion of the person. It means to empathize, not just sympathize, but to empathize with the other human being, to feel what they feel. It's co-passion, compassion. And that's what we emphasize. We like to feel you. We like to feel what we estimate, and that's all we can do, of God. And we like to explore those possibilities and maybe the probabilities and even the improbabilities and remain curious and to think and to live. I've said many times here that when somebody asks you, how are you doing? They're basically asking you, how are you dying? Because from the time we enter this earth, we go to that place that in life that we call death. I call it transition to whatever we go to, wherever we came from. So when we say, how are you doing? How are you dying this morning? I'm dying pretty good. Turn to somebody and say, how are you dying today? And tell them the truth. I'm dying pretty good, or I'm not dying as well. Imagine you're gonna sing before or afterward. Are you gonna say afterward? Okay, she's gonna sing "Come Home." Home afterward. Wanted to salute the candidate for Congress this morning, Mr. Tim. Thank you for coming. We've been waiting to hear of some more. Stand for just a moment and just let the people see who you are. Hear that name, Tim Gilpin. And I imagine that's your wife sitting next to you. Hey, well, she's sitting mighty close. I'm glad there's a connection there. Welcome, Sarah. We need to hear of more progressive politicians. You don't hear that much of the candidates in this state, a red state, that are progressive. So we've been looking for you and waiting for you and listening for you. He was out in front of the Bill Maher crowd. That's a good crowd to go when he was in town a few weeks ago. So we bid you Godspeed and God's as well. I know you have some wonderful thoughts for our state. We need more diversity in every way. My theme today is based on the theme of the month, which is calling and invocation or vocation. But I'm going to use for my topic today, do you hear what I hear? Do you hear what I hear? And most of us don't know the next line because I don't, whatever. But I'm going to use it as a scriptural passage, Romans 10:7, for faith, which means persuasion, to be convinced by or persuaded that something is real to you. Faith comes by hearing. Greek word is akouo. English word is acoustics for that term. Faith comes by acoustical resonations or syncopations or incantations or invitations in your spirit. And hearing, acoustics, by the logos. Scripture says word. The Greek word is logos, or the logistics, or the logic, the reasoning of God as you experience God. You can't define God. We are finite beings trying to describe or even define an infinite reality. In the farthest reaches and rhythms and regions of consciousness, there is a reality or an intelligence or a knowing or a science that we title God. Remember, conscience or conscience is with knowledge. Science means knowledge. A conscious person is aware. Interesting, the scripture says that the serpent was the most crafty or subtle animal or animation in the garden. The word crafty or subtle is the same word for naked in Hebrew. One, they relate to to each other. One is aron, one is arom, and it means to be cunning or aware or conscious or slick. Suave. The word is nakash in Hebrew for serpent. It means to hiss, prognosticate, inaugurate, to know. What do you know based on what you believe? And what do you believe? Most folk know what they believe. They don't always believe what they know. We come here knowing and then we forget, and somebody teaches us something and we start believing, and what we believe is not really what our soul knows. We're coming into an age in human history when your soul is beginning to speak louder to you even than your beliefs. Your soul is making, at least it is with me, my soul, my science, my knowledge is demanding me to explain what I believe, why I believe it, and how those beliefs add to or subtract from the quality of my life. I'm loving the inquiry. I'm loving the interrogative. I'm loving the questioning. I'm loving the excavating and the investigating. I love my new curiosity. What do you believe and why do you believe it? And not just about life in general, but how those beliefs add to or subtract from the quality of your life. Do you hear? Are there any acoustical soundings? And the word sound is the Greek word akos. The English word is echo, and an echo is a sound out of the past. Homecoming is actually you hearing home calling, your original sponsored idea that spawned your existence in this dimension. Why are we here? All of the shaman and mystics of the ages would always say, we are here because we know something. But between the womb and the tomb, we tend to forget what we know. As we shift into this new age, and Jesus is recorded to have said, I'm with you always to the end of the age. There is an age ending when the emphasis of Jesus may not be as it has always been. And Christians are scrambling with that, and that's why some of the things that you're seeing happening in our country are happening. Doesn't mean that Jesus will go away, or Christians will go away, but Christianity is under a certain kind of indictment and scrutiny that it's never been in its history. At least in recent history, people are asking questions with all the scandal in the Catholic Church and all the scandal among some of the leading ministers and ministries and fundamentalists and evangelicals and folks of my background all the last several years. There's a big question out there. What do we believe and why do we believe it and how is it working for it? Turn to somebody and say, how's that working for you? How you doing? How you dying? What's happening in your life? Is all this stuff working? Is it in God that we trust or is it in guns that we trust? Because some of the folks that claim God most have more guns than God made, no, it seems like. And I'm not against guns. I don't have one personally, but my daddy always had one. You lived where we lived, you'd have one too. But to emphasize it to the degree that we do, an alarm is a call to arms. Whenever they rang the alarm or the bell in any community, that means grab your arms because the enemy's coming. We need to be alerted, but not alarmed. Talk to me, somebody. A waking up, a coming, a calling is never just heard. It must also be felt deeply within the soul, deeply within the self. And there's a difference in a team member and a team player. We're all members of the human race, but we don't all play in the game. Many members of all souls. We got a wonderful membership, but there are some people, and we learned back in my days of pastoring, we founded a church. We found that about 18% of the congregation did 80% of the giving and the living and the volunteering and the work. The rest of them were along for the ride. We've heard there's three kinds of people. There are those who make things happen. There are those who watch things happen. And then those who wonder what happened. Which category do you fit in? The worker, the team player is aware of what's happening. We're about to move downtown in a few years and build, we're starting now to build a several $1 million or $20 million church. And we got 4 acres that's been gifted to the church. It's time to kick it up a notch but you won't do that if you don't feel the calling. We can tell you about it. We're going to eventually, next Sunday, they're going to have a video. A pastor has sat with the team. They have a lot of ideas for the architecture of the building, and I can't wait to see that. I know you can't wait to see it either. But that's seeing and that's hearing. Now, what is your response to that? Do you feel the tug in your soul, even to be here? On the planet, I mean, not just in this church. Well, maybe in this church, but in this city, if Tim doesn't, if Mr. Gilpin, I want to say Mr. Gilpin, if you don't feel the tug, and I know you do, you wouldn't, if you don't feel the tug to do it, it's got to be a calling, it's got to be a summons, not a subpoena, a summons. The calling is both an invitation and it's an ingratiation. You almost have to do it. I call that the four O's of developing: the orgasmic, organic, organismic, and organization. Religion itself is more of an organization. Haven't had an orgasm in a long time. We need some movement around here. Talk to me, somebody. They're taking care of the organization, but the organic process is gone. I'm looking, and so are you. We're waiting for that new sound, that echo, that reminder of who you are, not who you aren't. Because who you aren't is not interesting. Only who you are is. Who you are is the yes that agreed to come here. Scripture says many are called, few are chosen. Who are called, who are chosen? Is God a respecter of persons? Everybody is called, but the only ones who are chosen are the ones who hear and respond positively to the call. We are here because we heard something, we know something, and we're trying to reclaim what we remember about that something. Light travels 186,000 miles per second. A light year is the distance that light can travel in 1 year at that speed, several trillion miles. Sound, however, travels only about 1,100 feet per second. So you can see a lot farther and a lot faster than you can hear. I'm 65 years old, and sounds that when I came out of my mother's womb, a certain sound, a certain energy, a certain inclination went out into the universe. But that sound has moved slower than the light. I'm hearing sounds, I believe I'm calling them spiritual deja vus. I'm hearing them today that I forgot I heard back then when I had just come from wherever we come from, swimming in amniotic fluids for 9 months when I was a little fish face. And you were too. We swim in amniotic fluids for 9 months. Most of it, by the time we come out, is urine. How we swam and breathed in that water, I don't know. But when we come out, science tells us we're 80% water. And we become 50% by the time we're adult, but our brain remains 80%. Turn to someone and say, "You waterhead." You're supposed to have all that moisture, and in that water, in the 100,000 miles of arteries that's in your body, vamping and coursing through those veins is moisture and water and vibrations and incantations and invitations and invocations and incitations. You're always doing something. You're always calling and claiming. Not only are you called, but you call. You summons yourself. You are very invitational, whether you know it. We're not just creative beings, we're creative beings and creating beings. Right now, we are physiologically, biologically creating bodily fluids and saliva and urine and tears and sweat, and there's energy. You're so busy. Your body is busy. You're a ball of energy that does not know how to stop. Your infinite self is always doing something other. As my grandma used to say, something other. She wouldn't say something other. What you doing? Something other? We can't make you create, but we can ask you to be more conscious. Do it consciously. Do it scientifically. Do it intentionally. Do it with purpose and do it on purpose. Don't randomly create stuff that some of us have randomly created things in our lives that we despise. We don't even know how it got there, but our thinking created it. The energy, because thoughts are powerful and creative and inventive. What you think about, you bring about. And when you hear that sound, there's certain sounds, syncopations, and incantations catching up with me at 65 that I forgot I heard. And now I feel like I'm trying to catch up, but I'm really not. I'm right on time, right on target, right in tune with who I am, walking in cadence as opposed to decadence, dying, going backwards. I'm on my way to that wealthy place. I'm on my way to that higher place. I'm on that way to that holier ambiance that's out there that I connect with, my spiritual essence. When I say your essential self, that's your permanent rather than your accidental self. It's your immediate, immeasurable, immortal self. The part of you that feels deeper than the flesh. Feels deeper. There's a scripture you've heard in Jeremiah where he says, he describes a conversation he's having with God, where God says, before I formed you in the womb, I knew you. Do you remember a formless you? A skinless, endless, sinless, perfectly adequate you? That is there. You just tend to ignore it. Ignorance, remember, doesn't mean to not know. It means to not notice or to not make note of. It's taken me all these years, but I'm starting to make note and take notes of the syllabus that's in my soul, the syllabus that has my life course and my life class and what I'm here for. I have to go within so I don't have to go without. I am listening like I've never listened before in my life. Listen means to list, literally. I'm making a list on my psyche, on my soul, suke in Greek, on the logic of my thought. What makes you think what you think, and what do those thoughts ultimately resolve? There is a tugging, there's a coming back to the original purpose for which we came here. We're not just victims of creation or victims of destiny. I think we agreed to come and forgot it. You've heard me say that before. I think I'm here by agreement. And the word agreement is the Greek word symphoneo. English word would be symphony, symphonic. Doesn't mean to sound the same, doesn't even mean sound alike. It just means to sound together. All things work together for good. We talk about diversity. Say to the person next to you, say, I am so glad that you don't look like me. Just say it. And now while we're on the subject, say, and I'm so glad I don't look like you. I like the diversity. I like the difference. I like, you're curious looking. We all have noses and ears and earlobes and toes and hips and lips and hips. We have all these different variations, but we're basically the same. Universe, heard me say many times, one verse, version, or versification of the whole. I am at home in my soul. I am at home in myself. I am at home exactly where I am. All that I've gone through, all that I've traversed, all the transitions and transmissions, and even the omissions with the commissions, all of it works out together. That's my integrated self as opposed to my disintegrated self. All of it works. Integrate is to put all the stuff together. I get sort of mixed up. I know you mixed up because you came to hear me. If you wasn't that mixed up, you wouldn't have came. If I wasn't that mixed up, you know why we come? Because you remind us of who we are. Hanging out with you, when we hang out with each other, you remind us of our virtue. You remind us of our humanness. You remind us of our precision. You remind us of our permission. You remind us that we are as welcome here. That's why we're social, spiritual, sensual, sexual beings. That's why some people go to the mall just to be reminded by other human beings. You may not have any interaction, but you just like to see other humans. We need each other. We know we need each other. Why do we reject and resent each other when we need each other and want each other, and we're inextricably connected anyway? I flew to Denver, Colorado this weekend. We had to be there Friday night and yesterday morning for a workshop, and then I came back. I got up. For some reason, my clock was an hour early, and I've never done this. I don't remember ever doing this when I misinterpreted the time of my alarm. So I got up, and I needed to be at the airport at 6:20. So my flight was to leave at 6:20, so I needed to be there at 5:20, but I'd get up about 4:20. And I woke up at 3:20, and I thought it was 4:20. And I was so disgusted that I needed that sleep because I was up late that night putting stuff together. And I thought, I was complaining. And anyway, I got out to the airport. And when I got out there, Madge took me to the airport. And when I got to the desk, the lady said, the flight has been canceled. You have now a 2-hour wait. But Madge had lost her phone, so I couldn't call her back. I thought, this is a hell of a day. It started out wrong. I could have stayed at home and slept, and then they kept delaying it, so I got to the Dallas airport, and there was another equipment failure. The plane that arrived before us, that what we were supposed to go out on, the wing was loose. Get them hands up and tell him thank you. That's why I wasn't on it. The wings was loose. So they moved that and bought another piece of equipment to us, and it had a problem with the radio. I was in the Dallas airport from 11 o'clock or something like that, 11:30 to 5 o'clock in the evening. I wanted to kill somebody. Finally, I get to Denver late. I was supposed to be there at 7. I didn't even arrive till 6:30 at the airport. 6:45, there's a driver there. But anyway, we got on this plane in Dallas. I want to tell you this story. Got on this plane in Dallas, crowded because all the planes were converging. Converging? What is it? Anyway, all the people were together. So I'm in group 3. I get on a little bit early, and I always, if I can't fly first class, I fly always in the exit row, so there's more legs. So I'm sitting there, this gentleman right here, and I always take a window seat, and there was a seat between us, and I was so glad. I ain't even Catholic, but I was saying, Lord, don't let nobody sit. I need to sleep. I got up early. I'm tired. I'm hungry. I don't need to talk to anybody. And then they announced that this plane is completely full, so make sure that you put your stuff. And I thought, oh, Lord, who's going to sit there? I hope it's somebody that's drunk and sleepy. And I'm sitting there, and I saw this guy come, big, sort of a bulky fellow, red in his face and elsewhere, like the neck and all. So I was a little bit unconscious. I said, don't, please, he ain't going to like me. He voted for Trump, and he ain't gonna like me. I had prejudged him. And I didn't know if he was gonna see, because he was walking pretty briskly. He flopped right down, got all between us, and said, hey, how you doing, buddy? And I thought, I ain't dying so good. I'm tired and sleepy. But he was so warm and so friendly, and of course, we began to talk. He was so open. He was a motorcycle driver, he had sort of, and a mechanic, so he had oil under his fingernails and really rough skin, and he was breathing, you could hear him breathing, and he was not beard and was very talkative, and we just meshed so beautifully together. And he was telling me all these, he started volunteering. He didn't know who I was, didn't know anything about me, the ministry or anything. He just started volunteering all this stuff, and I always ask questions, usually too many, and he keeps feeding me back. He says, man, I was supposed to be on this trip. I was supposed to be sitting right here next to you. And he said, and he started showing me how he was such a mean, angry guy. He had been abused by his brother sexually. And he's gruff man. His wife had just died 4 years earlier of methamphetamine overdose. And he was showing me cuts and scars of him fighting. And I was thinking, who is this? When did you start liking people of color? I asked him that. He said, 3 years ago. I remember thinking, scoot over, you may not be completely delivered. We began to engage. I said, so he said, he's going to come here and do my live show. He's going to talk to me on the show about his view, his sound. He says, I hear something differently. He started asking me questions about heaven and hell and the scripture. And I told him part of my story. We become friends. He actually has my cell number. And his brother was at the airport, and we met and talked. And this big old burly guy kissed me right in front of other people. And I mean, that's not unusual, but I just thought it was unusual for him. He don't know my cheek that well. Really gruff, burly guy. And he texted me about the service, and he wants to come and be on our show. He wants to tell his story. He said I said, why are you so angry? Why? Because he talked about the fighting of the motorcyclist. He had a Harley. He builds Harley Davidsons. Tough, rough, drinking beer and wine and talking and snorting. He said, and when I asked him why he was so angry, he said, because I'd been abused. Two English words, abnormally used. anything that does not know its purpose, or you don't know its purpose, whether that's your car, your screwdriver, or a gun, a knife, a wife, a husband, a child, an education, a degree. If you don't know its purpose, you will use it abnormally, which means you abuse it. You can take your phone and try to nail in something, or take it and try to dig something out. You're going to destroy the phone. He said, I'm abused because I'm angry. I've abused people, men, women, children. He's not talking sexually. I've just misused, and he's showed me how his arm was broken and how he had literally stab wounds in his chest and in his arms. I was intimidated for a few minutes, but not long, because he just basically undressed emotionally, and I heard the sound in this man's spirit. I heard the summons for me to be more open and embracive. I heard him calling me home to my heart, and he said the same thing. I embraced him emotionally and psychologically, and I said, sir, I judged you. I didn't want you to sit next to me. I apologize. Please forgive me. I have been thinking every white person I see voted for Trump. God help me. I've been so... Which means I think they don't like me. Please run, sir. Please win. Please. No, a little prejudice there. But I had confessed to him. He said, well, I didn't like you either, and I can't even tell you why. Something happened to me. He said, I was sitting under a tree next to my motorcycle, and I had a visitation. He said, I wasn't in church. There was no soft music playing. There was no emotional appeal from a preacher saying, come to Jesus. He said, my spirit heard something, and I began to change and evolve. That's a real conversion. Talk to me, somebody. He said, I believe a lot the way. He said, well, I don't believe in that either. Good. When I start talking about hell and some of the things that scripture preaches and how it's interpreted, and I said, I'm reinterpreting, I'm rereading the Bible. I fired that mean one that said he didn't like me in the beginning. He told me that he regretted that he made me. I don't believe that. That ain't my God. That's yours. He said, no, that ain't mine either. Every time I meet an atheist, I say, you still don't believe in God? No, I don't. I say, which one? There's a whole lot of them out there. When he begins to describe them, I say, I don't believe in that one either. Go to your next one. Lift your hands up like this and move some of that energy around. And wave yesterday goodbyes. I like to have you do. Old thoughts, old ways, old wine skins, and welcome the new. Embrace yourself. Continue to evolve. Every 7 years, your organs literally change. Every 29 days, your outer skin changes. You're constantly evolving and dissolving and resolving. We're in a moment of resolution. Imagine if you'll come and get ready to sing the song, sitting there with her mom. Thanks for coming here this morning, sweetheart. Imagine going to sing Home, the song from The Wiz. And when you think of home, what do you think of? When you think of belonging, she brought me some chicken to the plane last night. And I called her from Dallas. I said, I need some chicken if you're going to pick me up. I didn't know. And she actually brought some chicken, which she had eaten half of it. But it was still good. Why don't you close your eyes for the first, just listen to the first words, and then you can open them a little later. But let these first words, when I think of home, when I think of my original, unedited, authentic soul and self, somehow invited or summoned to this plane or planet of consciousness, what does it feel like? Welcome back.
Think of a place where there's love overflowing. I wish I was home. I wish I was back there with the things I've been on. to be back home where there's love and affection, and just maybe I can convince time to slow up, giving me enough time in my life to grow up. Time, be my friend. Let us start again. Well, suddenly our world's gone and changed its face, but we know where we're going. And we have had our minds spun around in space, and yet we've watched it grow. If you're listening, God, please don't make it hard to believe in the things that we see. Tell us, should we try and stay? Should we run away, or would it be better just to let things be? Living here in this brand new world, it might be a fantasy. But it's taught us to love. Hey, so it's real, it's real to me, and we've learned that we must look inside our hearts and find a world full of love like yours, like mine. Woo!
Hey, we're so happy you're visiting with us online today. We love connecting with people all across the country and around the world, sharing our powerful message of love beyond belief.
There's something new happening here. You can now join All Souls as a virtual member. Our virtual membership is designed for friends who live outside of Tulsa, Oklahoma, and who want to engage with All Souls in a meaningful way.
You can be part of an expanding family, a global family really, wherever you are. If you live in Oklahoma,
Ohio,
or Orange County, California,
Canada,
or Cameroon. By becoming a virtual member, you'll be able to deepen your connections with members and friends here in Tulsa and with members wherever you are.
Each week, you'll receive special All Souls content tailored for you, our virtual members. Virtual members have access to pastoral care, to personal prayers, and also receive invitations to exclusive web events.
You can learn more, and if you're ready, you can become a virtual member today by visiting allsoulschurch.org/virtual membership.
We're grateful our ministries are having a positive impact on your life, and we want to share the good news of love beyond belief with more and more people. So no matter what, we need your support to keep this ministry growing and thriving, so please consider making a gift today. You can do so by texting
Love BB for Love Beyond Belief to 73256, or simply visit our website. You are a blessing in our lives. May you be blessed
and be a blessing.